Well, good evening, Royal We community. Good evening, Royal We community. It's so good to see everybody here. I'm so happy that you are all here together on this beautiful Monday night. For those of you who are new to Royal We Live Chat, welcome. I'm so excited to be able to talk with you all tonight and to answer your questions and to take your phone calls. So thank you for spending the night here with me. Tanya's in the house. Thank you, Tanya, for being here. I hope you had a great week off and break last week. I know you spent time with your family, but I'm glad that you're here. It's so good to see you here. Let's see who else is here. PW Pizza Rocks, good to see you here. Hoon Kim, I saw you hanging out for a bit before we started tonight, and that is way cool. I'm glad that you're here. Welcome, everybody, as you're signing on. Mueller Zur, hey, from San Diego, California. I used to live in California, in the Inland Empire, though. That doesn't quite count. San Diego, I look at San Diego as like its own state, not really a part of California. So bless you for being a part of California, and bless you even more, Meowser, for being here. Let's see who else is signing in already. Jamie Endicott, hi. Salon Savvy 64, hi. Joe in the Know from Australia. It's good to see you here. Welcome, everybody. Cheryl, hi. Glad to have you here for the first time. Welcome, Cheryl. Trumpeter Swan, how are you doing? Fifi LaFleur is in. Sandra D. Minnesota Jude. Thank you all for everybody being here. Chevy Lynn, also from Austin, nearby neighbor, Austin, Texas, is in the house. Emily Hobbs, hola. And One Hope for Heaven, yo ho ho. Is this Pirate Day? One Hope for Heaven, yo ho ho. That's awesome. So good to see you all. Watching from Riverside, Sandra D. Now, Riverside, now that's getting really close to my old hometown. I mean, really close. I mean, almost right on the dot close to one of my old stomping grounds, Sandra. But I'm happy that you're there watching. Emily Hobbs, Heidi Ho, Boise, Lori, Dale. All right. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Monday Night Live Chat. This is an opportunity for us to all talk together. And I know I'm coming at you with a lot of energy and a lot of excitement, and I'm excited to be here with you, to talk with you. I'm excited to answer your questions. And I know that a lot of you, even though we are saying hi and we're greeting one another. And by the way, everybody in the chat, go ahead and greet one another as well. Say hi, make conversations, talk to one another. If you have something you're wrestling with, something that you're going through, this is the area to get that out. When you have these deep questions about healing, wherever you're at in your recovery process, go ahead and get it out in the chat room. You can ask questions there, and you can call me. Now, how many of you have seen the phone number I posted already at the top? I pinned it. Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see the phone number, because I want the phone number to be readily available for you. That way you can call, right? Because we're here to hear some voices. We're here to get some phone calls, people to call in and to share and to ask some of those deep questions. If not asking a deep question for yourself, ask some deep questions for other people, right? Ask some deep questions that are going to help people recover, help people where you're at, help people identify with some of the things you're struggling with. One of the best parts about the healing process of narcissistic abuse is that you're not alone. But your unique healing journey, if in fact you express it and you expose it, not the narcissist, but where you're at and what you're struggling with, what it's going to do is help resonate with others. That's what it's going to do. And it's going to help to bring more clarification. All right. So the phone number is there. Feel free to call. Mark Hobbs has got the phone number down there. Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Yes, Mark, that's the phone number. Like I said, I pinned it. So I'm not sure if pinning it means that it is available, but it should be at the top of your chat bar. Whatever's pinned is at the top of the chat bar, and you should see the phone number up there. All right. All right. Well, I thought that until we get some phone calls, I'll share a little bit about what you can expect coming forward on the Royal We, some of the topics that I'm going to be talking about. You will see these videos either tomorrow or throughout the week. And that is, of course, unless we get awesome, awesome phone calls and conversations here, in which case you may see some of the conversations here transfer over to the Royal We channel. I experimented with that last week, and it ended up being very well received because they're very genuine, very authentic. There's nothing like tackling a real question in real time. So your questions are very important. So again, I encourage you to ask your questions. I encourage you to speak up and to help everybody out with where you're at and to get things started out tonight. All right. All right. Phone number should work. If somebody is trying to call and phone number's not working, let me know. Now, as far as what you can expect, and first of all, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to take a shot in the dark. I'm gonna take a risk here until I see some questions here. I'm gonna do some top news. Should I do some top news just for the Royal We community? Or should I stay away from that? I'm gonna let you decide right now because you are the Royal We family. What do you all say? Should we tackle some of the top news where opinions can fly, or should we keep it focused on what we're here for? I'm gonna wait on that one because I've got some things that are written down, but I'm not a news source, so it would be crazy for me to do that. No, yes, news. Seuss B says no, and then Hyde Brown says yes. Mary says yes. Emily says oh, we're all saved by the phone call. No top news. And you're live on the Royal We. How are you?
I'm doing well. How goes it, Kevin?
Good. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
All right. Well, thank you so much for reaching out and for giving us a phone call. I'm happy to hear from you. What's going on?
Yeah, thank you for doing what you do and having us. The topic that I wanted to bring up was kind of along the lines of if you're an empath or if you're an empathic person, is there any advice you have for kind of protecting yourself from incredibly toxic people and narcissistic people? Something that I've kind of noticed recently, I was at a going away gathering for a friend, and just like these incredibly toxic people were just like, I was like a magnet. Like, it was crazy. They were just sticking to me, and I know it's because I'm a nice person and I care about people and I try to help people, and I know it's something that I'm doing for sure. I can't blame it on anyone else but myself. I'm in control of my own life and stuff. But yeah, just was wondering if you had any advice on how to kind of protect yourself, or perhaps put up a shield energetically too, because you kind of feel quite drained after experiencing an interaction with toxic people and narcissistic people.
Right. So empathic individuals, which I'm gathering that's what you're talking about, being a highly empathic person, a highly intuitive person. Chances are you're reading into situations very, very deeply. And I could tell you've come out of a toxic and abusive relationship. Is that correct? Is that?
Yeah.
And you're going back and you're being around these people?
It's different people in different situations. It just so happens that I've also come out of a toxic relationship, and it's tricky too, because I know I've you've mentioned many times some awesome advice of just getting the hell out of these situations, which is excellent advice. But obviously, sometimes that's you can't always do that based upon life situations and whatnot. But
it depends. Yeah, it depends on who it is and how old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
Yeah, I am 31. Just turned 31.
31. Okay, so, and depending on the situation, being 31, you have more power and leverage of where you are to go, where you can go, where you can't go, why, when, how, and who you're with than you realize, right? I know it seems like life situations gets thrown at us and puts us in these places that we would rather not be, but we feel stuck. And when I look back when I was in my early 30s, I felt the same way. And that is probably the biggest thing that if I could go back and talk to my 30-year-old self, that's the one thing I would correct, is that now you're a man. Now you're an individual. Now you need to, now more than ever, you need to exercise your sovereign rights. Now more than ever, you need to exercise the ability to walk away from mom, to walk away from dad, to walk away from brother, to walk away from sister at the slightest bit of discomfort, and not feel like you're running away, but instead own walking away as though you're just in tune with your certain level of uncomfortableness in a situation, your own discernment. And you learn to start to take that control, and you learn to start to walk away, okay? And might it throw people off initially? Yes. Is it going to be difficult for you as an empath? Yes, because you're going to feel the stares of people as they look at you as you walk away. You're going to maybe see the text messages or the social media posts, and you're going to think, oh man, I really messed up. But over time, what you're going to discover is it's naturally going to command more respect from people. And that's more important than being this empathic person who sulks around in areas and in parties when you really don't want to be there. Because that's really what your empathy is telling you. It's not that you are hypersensitive and want to be there for all these people. What I've learned is that your empathy is also trying to tell you something. There's a lot of weird things going on here. This isn't necessarily your type of people. This isn't necessarily where you belong. So be quick about what you're doing here. Be swift and make your exit. And it goes against your empathy, but it's not. It's a fine line between empathy and discernment. So what I would say to anybody who's going through that, how to deal with that, is take those bold steps. And again, I wish I could tell my 30-year-old self this, because I stayed with people and with family situations. Like you said, I felt like I was in places that I couldn't really get out of because of life situations. I wish I could go back to myself at that age and say, there's no such thing as life situations you can't get out of. There's no such thing as a party you can't say no to. There's no such thing as people you can't say goodbye to earlier rather than later, and walk away, right? And in time, you'll get more used to that. You'll stop looking at yourself as being mean. You'll just look at it as, listen, you're a person. You have things to do, places to go, people to see. And why spend more time than necessary in a place where you're not comfortable?
For sure. Yeah, you got to protect yourself. And that's definitely, I think if everyone, that's good advice. And thank you. It's really good. I think,
does that help?
Yeah, you kind of, that does. That's very helpful. Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Right on. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it.
Yes. Cheers.
All righty. Have a great night.
All right. Bye. You too.
Yay for the questions. Yay for the questions. Yay for the questions. Bring on some more. Hey. Appreciate that, caller. Thank you so much. I really, really... Angela says, I wish I had that in my 40-year-old self. Listen, I meant every word of that. I wish that my younger self, when I was in my early 30s, I wish somebody would have told me that, especially in getting, especially moving in and expanding family situations and getting new people involved in your life. That's the beginning stages of where boundaries are so important. I would say in your early 20s, you're off doing your things or whatever, but then something happens in your mid to late 20s, early 30s where you feel kind of drawn back in. You feel like you're kind of being led around. You still feel like you need to answer to other people. And in fact, this is the area where you need to be split. You need to be making your own decisions. You need to be able to conquer, being able to say yes and no, and let your yes mean yes and your no be no. You need to experiment with what it's like to maybe come across as being a jerk, right? At some point in your life, you have to do that. And by jerk, I mean, don't bully people. I mean by jerk, meaning you just say, no, I'm not going to make it this time. I know you really want me to, but nah, not this time. This is something that I wish somebody would have told me in my early 30s. Kevin, practice being a jerk that doesn't show up from time to time. Practice being a jerk that says no. Learn boundaries. Learn to let people down. Because what I've discovered is if you don't know how to let people down, those people will eventually use that against you when you do start to pull away. So you get too close to a toxic family, for example, things start to get out of control. There's a lot of abuse taking place, and then you start to pull away, and then they make you feel guilty for it, right? Because you didn't practice being able to handle the guilt, and now you're stuck. You're live on the Royal We. Thank you for calling.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I've spoken to you a time or two before. Nice to be on the show tonight.
I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so glad that you're calling. Where are you calling from again?
I'm calling from Texas.
Texas. Okay. I should have known from that Texan accent. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay. I wanted to hear your thoughts on my situation, if you have a minute. I was recently diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and I have been ostracized and isolated from my family for a little over 10 years.
10 years?
And when I got, a little over 10 years, I stood up to my abusers, which was my dad and his wife and a sister. And when I stood up for myself against the abuse, there was a smear campaign, of course. And
Typical. Very typical.
my family members, very typical. And my family members all stopped talking to me. I mean, the entire family had nothing to do with me. I didn't hear from any of these people for over 10 years, I would say. So I recently, about 2 months ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I have a couple of cousins that have tried to contact me, as well as my dad and his wife, and they're trying to come back now that I have cancer. So I'm real confused because they're pretending to care, even though they haven't cared in all these years. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on why they're doing this.
Right. This is a very hard and a very difficult place. And first of all, my heart breaks for you in your battle for cancer. And I'm hoping for a miracle, and I'm hoping that they find it, and I'm hoping that they're able to cure this particular cancer that you're dealing with. That's my hope.
Thank you, Kevin.
That's my hope for you.
Thank you so much.
I know that with narcissists, I trust that you separated from these family members because of the fact that they were very abusive towards you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have separated yourself to such a great deal, and you wouldn't be in the tremendous pain you are right now to think that they're even trying to contact you. And I understand, I understand this particular place you're in, and this is why. You're at a low place. You're in a painful place in life. You're at a place where you don't know what's going to happen. And
Right, exactly.
when narcissistic people who have basically crapped on you in your life, when they should have been enjoying your energy, when they should have been enjoying your youthfulness, when they should have been enjoying you when you were at your peaks and your high moments, but they couldn't.
Yes.
Instead, they neglected you. They rejected you. Narcissistically abusive people lash out of their jealousy, lash out of their bitterness, and they attack you for the things that you enjoy in life. Rather than celebrate your good times, they attack you. And it's important to understand this, because now when you're in this low place and you're hurting, these narcissistic people want to run to you, and they want to cuddle around you as though they care. And the problem with this is obviously, as you indicated, you're able to understand this, that the only reason they care, the only reason, is not because they ever wanted to celebrate life with you, not because they ever loved you enough to enjoy you as an individual, but because you're in a low place, which gives them some weird, twisted authority over you. It puts them in a position of virtue signaling where they can say, look at how sweet we are as we come around you, as you're
Yeah.
sick, as you're so sick, you poor thing. And they're really able to
Yes.
they're able from that position to pour on this fake thing, which is easy for them to do. How many of you watching and you calling in right now, you understand this about narcissists? They can be fantastic when you're hurting. They love it when you are going and you're asking them for help and favors. To them, it's narcissistic supply. They're like, yeah, I'm needed. Yeah, I'm over you. Yeah, I'm the dominant one. Yes, you need me. But the moment you are experiencing a thrill in life, the moment you have an authentic joy in life, they're gone. They're offended by it even. They hate it. Narcissists hate you at your proudest moments. But then here you are sick and they want to come and shower you with love? How sad is that? So I
Yeah.
understand your pain. I truly do. And it's a very unique
Yeah.
situation for you because I don't know who you have in your life right now to go through this and walk through this with you. Are you married? Do you have a partner?
I I have Jesus, Kevin. That's who I have. It's me and Jesus getting through this. I'm completely alone,
You are so sweet.
and I am.
You are so sweet, by the way. How old are you?
I'm 51.
Okay. Well, you're young and
Yeah.
you have
Well,
Jesus.
not that young, but yeah. He's gotten me through it so far. So, and I have a wonderful medical team behind me that told me they understand that I don't have a lot of family support, and they have told me that we'll be your family. So they're wonderful.
Listen, sometimes that's all you need. That's all you need. And so, from my perspective, to a family that never wanted to be there for your good times, what difference does it make if they're there for you during your bad times? I don't think it makes a
Right.
bit of
Well,
difference. It will not make up
well,
for the joy in your life that they missed out on.
let me tell you, Kevin. My dad has been calling me uh, every few days. But since I was diagnosed, he keeps trying to push his abusive wife and my sister upon me, and I've made it very clear to him that I don't want anything to do with them.
Hmm.
And he continues to try to push that off on me to promote them to me after they have been really abusive to me.
Right.
And my dad is even making comments that are hurtful. And I keep telling him, Daddy, you've got to stop doing this. This is not good for me. But
Yeah.
he continues. So I'm really torn because I love my dad, but I don't think that he's good for me, during this time because I get very upset and I ruminate and it's just not a good situation.
The last thing
So
you Yeah. The
I'm
last thing
wondering
you need.
if it would be cruel just to go no contact. My dad's elderly, but it's just not good for me. Do you understand?
Of course I understand. And no, it's not cruel. It's not cruel. Again, it can come across as mean, especially to a narcissistic individual. They will take it as a very hurtful slight, not necessarily because they've ever cared enough about you to again celebrate your good moments in life and to be there for you and to celebrate your joys. No, no, they don't care about you that much, but they care in that somebody rejected them. Somebody has told them no. This is where we see narcissists collapse. They can't deal with being told no. How dare other people tell them to stay away? That's what hurts them. And so for somebody who has never been a part of your life to be said leave to be told, leave me alone now too, again, it's not going to hurt them because they've never really been an active part of your life. The only thing that's going to hurt is that rejection. And so, as an empathic person, somebody
Okay.
with a heart like yours, you need to understand that sometimes you're going to have to look like the bad guy in order to maintain and protect your peace. Because you're right, you don't need the added stress, you don't need the ruminating thoughts. You're trying to get treatment, and a lot of very difficult treatment, by the way. Cancer's not anything to mess around with. It's not like taking, Advil. I can't imagine the treatment and the regimen that you're on. and what you have to go through. But I can tell you this, that your body doesn't need the added stress of family members who have treated you horribly calling you to say things, to tell you what you ought to do. And you don't need that. Now is not the time to kiss and make up. Not for you. You need to focus on your medical team, focus on your healing, and now is not the time to play kiss and make up with narcissistic people who you've had to get away from. Not at all. That's my thoughts on it.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. I think I just needed to hear that from you. That's so helpful.
All right. Well, I'm glad that helped you. And I thank you so much for calling. And we will be praying for you and for the medical team that's with you and the support that you have.
Thank you, Kevin. God bless you. You have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So I'm getting messages from all kinds of people saying low battery. Oh, no, low battery. Okay. There shouldn't be a low battery. Oh, the camera's on a low battery. That's what it is. That's a bummer. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. We'll just keep going. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. That's the camera. That's the camera. Woo! It might go out. I don't know. We've been going. We'll just keep going. When it goes out, the live stream will end. How about that? I don't want to freak out. We're here. I'm here with you. I did have the camera going for quite a bit tonight. I was so excited to talk with you all tonight that I had it set up, ready to go 30 minutes prior. I had the camera on, sitting there, mic checked, everything going. And, yeah. Oh, yeah, you like that, Hyde? Yeah, I realized. Well, I was saying low battery, it can't be. I mean, I've got everything plugged in here except for the dang camera. Doggone it. Yeah. All right. I wouldn't worry about that. We'll be cool. Any other questions, callers, calls, comments? Let's keep it rolling. Well, listen. And by the way, I have all kinds of ways I can fix that if I need to. I can switch cameras. And I think we've got time. Any other questions? Are there questions that I've missed here? And by the way, thank you, Tanya, for your screaming at me, low battery, low battery, low battery, low battery. Man, you just really, like, Tanya, you would be the person that I would want, like, on a spaceship if we were intergalactically flying, like on the Starship Enterprise. You would be the one that's like, danger, 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 danger. Thank you for calling. You're live on the Royal We.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call. I will try to word this discreetly because this is a tough subject. Mm-hmm. It's that my toxic parents, narcissistic mother and an enabler father, decided when I was 6 years old, a very weird way of trying to introduce the subject of the birds and the bees. My mother especially just decided to...
At 6?
Show me... Yes.
Okay.
Show me the parts on themselves, especially her. Now, I'm 47. I've been married almost 23 years. But to this very day, it's just done an absolute number on my understanding and such of good intimacy with the spouse. Mm-hmm. And I'm very lucky that my wife has spent a lot of time. Well, actually, she's a CSA survivor, so she's dealt with this in a much more blunt and obvious way. But
what is CSA, if you don't mind my asking?
Childhood sexual abuse.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
47.
47.
I had
Okay,
a
you said that.
birthday. Yeah, I had a birthday, 47th birthday earlier this month.
Now, I have some thoughts as to maybe where this has gone into your sexuality, but go ahead and let's fast forward to where you're at and just an overall summary of how this has affected your sexual relationship and intimacy with your wife.
Well, this is an obvious one. I've had trouble addressing it just because of the resources that are out there. I mean, pornography addiction is one of them, and
Right.
I haven't really found a way that works. But more it is that my wife and we argue about just any number of things, when to initiate, when to do things. I have what some life coaches call narcissistic fleas, and I am still very prone to some of these narcissistic behaviors, despite being an empath, to still use guilt trips, to try to manipulate, to have the outcome go more in my favor.
Okay.
I think that's, a lot of it there.
Okay. Right off the bat, look, the pornography addiction makes sense. All right. It's not your fault that your parents had exposed you to the nudity and the sexuality at the age of 6. All right. That's not your fault. That was their responsibility to educate you and guide you in a way that maybe not have been so abrupt. Okay. And that I know for a fact that a lot of people who, at the age of 5, 6, 7, in that age group of young boys and young girls, by the way, who come across maybe their dad's pornography magazines or stumble across their pornography videos, and it's too numerous to count that this happens, and it's a reality. Those kids that grow up being exposed to pornographic magazines, Playboy, Hustler, whatever, right? And videos. And we're talking, those kids grow up to have massive, different kinds of sexual addictions naturally, because these images that they didn't know what they were really looking at have been ingrained in their minds of the image of the female, and what is erotic and what is sensual and what is sexual even. It comes from their viewing of these videos and seeing of this material. And this can really have a lifelong implication on a person, right? So I'm not sure exactly how your sexual relationship is with your wife, okay? So you have this ingrained image in your mind of what sexuality is, and you brought that into your marriage. Your wife is nothing like your parents. Your wife is nothing like the pornography or the magazines that you've seen. Your wife is a real person, an actual human being with emotions and feelings, and she needs to be talked to and cared for and guided. And women have different sexual
Kevin,
needs.
She was able to get free. So
good.
She at least has the empathy and understanding of getting ensnared in such a problem.
Okay.
And so I've done different things where I've gotten some degree of freedom, but it's never been a complete thing. And just as I was saying too, there's still so much shame and stigma I still hold on to for what should be something that's beautiful and bonding between her and I, and yet there's still so much frustration and unhappiness that still comes, even though we have a good marriage relationship. We really do.
Yeah. I think that I would say, again, if I were to finish where I was going, right? So your wife is not the images and whatever you saw through pornography, obviously. And you are not the aggressive sexual abuse that was implanted on your wife's mind. So why am I saying this, right? Because I believe that the two of you probably just need to, from my own opinion, for whatever it's worth, the two of you need to be able to just have a mutual amount of patience and understanding. Why is patience so important? Because for you, the sex and the intimacy is not going to look like what was implanted on your mind. For her, it's not going to be anything like what she experienced when she was younger. And again, these things really do create an effect, whether people like it or not. It creates a platform from which that intimate relationship is based on, and there's certain amounts of expectancy within that. And so what you need to do in the patience is understand that the sexual intimacy of your relationship will never reach the expectations that you have based on what you were exposed to as kids. It's going to be your sexuality is going to be way different. It may be times where you do things and you don't get off. It may be things where you do things and she doesn't get off. It may be starting and never finishing. It may be nothing more than holding. You know what I mean? So I think it, like I said,
it has been a thing.
Okay.
Yes.
But the anger and all of this, again, these things are always a result of expectations on both sides that are just crumbling down. And both of you are, you know where you came from, you know what you've been wrestling with, and so you know where these expectations have been built up from. It's just a matter of managing those expectations. At least that's what I think. I don't hear that you're dealing with a narcissist, and I don't believe your wife is dealing with a narcissist, because you're here watching videos, you're calling me, you're concerned, you understand these issues. And I don't.
Right. Some other YouTube channels wouldn't have us as moderators. Yeah, if that were the case. Right.
Yeah, I think that from my perspective, it just sounds like you're still struggling, and it may be a lifelong struggle of just the expectations, right?
Well, if I may, Kevin, one thing that seems to be going in our favor is I have problems just with spinal health issues and chronic persistent pain as a result.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already had to do some things to get around that and to deal with that. So therefore, would you say would it help if I also looked at this as just maybe another, not to confuse disability and sin, but just that this problem as it stands is also, I mean, at least that's what's worked for us in the past. I mean, she'd already told me, look, these expectations from the material, I am not able to meet them. We've had that conversation in the past, but we're already doing some things just to get around the fact that my lower spine is just absolutely messed up, pinched nerves and stuff. And so we already have to do things differently.
Okay.
As a result.
Okay. I take it. So is the sin part, the part that you're worried about? Are you worried about yourself? Are you in this place where you're falling into the trap of constantly viewing and looking at things that your wife doesn't like? Is that what's going on?
It's not even that so much anymore. She's already expressed patience to try to encourage me not to beat myself up so much. I have accountability with her.
Okay.
And she appreciates that, but it's more, it's not even that now. It's trying to get over my sense of shame and hang-ups about things generally, because it's not even the consumption anymore.
Right.
It's still a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're very hard on yourself, and this comes from a guy that's also very hard on myself. And I get that. So again, I would encourage you. What you were exposed to as a young child was not your fault. Your parents should have. They're responsible for that. They're accountable for that. So you carry no shame and no guilt for what you were exposed to by your parents. Is it a daily struggle and a battle to deal with the shame and the guilt of some of the consequences? Yes. Can you make changes in that area? Yes. Is it difficult? Yes.
Very.
However, I would say this: you're fortunate that you have a very patient and loving wife, because really
Yes.
the things that you were talking about, if you are looking at things or viewing things or whatever, the number one would be who would be offended by that, um, would be your wife, right? That would be the
Right.
ultimate. But if she is understanding and saying, well, this is what you need in order to help something, then she's now in agreement with you in the confinement of your marriage that this is something that might be needed. And so if you're looking at it from any other standpoint, that's a very dicey area. It's like this thing: does God hate
Yeah.
you because of what you're doing in the privacy of your marriage? No. You know, are
Right.
you affecting yourself by creating more expectations? Possibly.
Yeah.
And that you might need
Right.
to be aware of, right? So if you're engaging and viewing stuff and your wife is never going to match up to that. So, because
No.
because you're talking about the difference between people trying to make a buck or 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 or however much they're paid to do whatever gross, disgusting thing, right? You're talking about
Right.
that versus,
Right now, it's
yeah,
not even that. It's kind of more of this terrible crutch that I really don't need anymore. But it unfortunately is still, once
yeah.
in a while it comes up.
I would go to support groups. I'd find whatever support you can for that, because especially at this, it's with this, it's hurting you. It's you hurting yourself. And this is a great spot for you to be in, because it's not somebody else telling you need to stop. This is you telling you need to
Right.
stop. And so that's awesome, by the way. That is
But the other
powerful.
thing, Kevin,
Uh-huh.
I've tried support groups. Some people have mentioned 12-step work. I did that. That didn't go so great, just because I ran into my long distance sponsor, incredibly controlling, and I just wound into spots where, yeah, maybe I just need to give certain resources a little more time and patience. But does that make sense?
Yeah,
Nothing's completely gelled yet.
right. Yeah. Just give yourself patience. And I wouldn't give up fully on support groups. I'm a big fan of Celebrate Recovery for things just like what you're dealing with. When you want to make changes and you need weekly support, people who you can talk to, and you also have this group too here, though
Right.
we focus typically on narcissistic abuse and how to navigate these relationships. And this doesn't necessarily qualify as that. But I'm very happy that you called, and I'm glad that I can offer whatever I can offer to help you through
Right.
this.
Well, it was another facet of the narcissistic abuse that
Yeah.
my mother heaped on me, and it's lots through my family of origin. Basically, her mother and my mother basically fought over how to raise me. I won't go into all of that, but you get the idea. It
Right.
was just another facet of the abuse.
Right. Right. Yeah, just some ongoing residual trauma that you're going to wrestle with.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
Maybe I will just try to give things another run. I had tried a particular app, and the thing that was just frustrating for me, at least at the time, is it's hard there's not always a lot of overlap between this addiction and then narcissistic abuse. Things are worded much more generally. And when I'm trying to work on, you know, two issues at the same time, I usually can't get the context of both together. So in other words, I am really dealing with people that just talk about how they stumbled on it and got hooked, and they really don't talk about so much situations like mine. Once in a while
Right.
they do, but
Yeah.
not very often.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm here. I hear you. I understand where you're coming from with that. I do.
Okay. Well, then I will just try to give support groups another go again and see
I would.
what
I would.
comes from that.
Yeah. I would approach it from a place of just talking about it. The purpose of support groups is just to go there and open up and share. I had a great week. I had a difficult week. The other night I couldn't resist. I opened up. I looked at something. I'm trying to stop. It's hard. You know what I mean? And that's really what the support
Yeah.
groups are. It's the constant sharing that over time builds in a brand new habit of freeing yourself. That's
Mm,
what it's all about, right?
right.
All right.
Yes.
Well,
Thanks, Kevin.
thank you. I appreciate your call.
Yeah.
Bye. That was awesome. Another awesome call. Kind of outside of the realm of helping people navigate difficult relationships, but nonetheless, it's a good to see how uh, trauma and difficult narcissistic relationships and upbringings can just wreak havoc on our lives, and we spend the rest of our lives trying to manage these things. And I'm thankful that I've spent enough time in Celebrate Recovery. I've gone through the 12 steps myself for various issues that I have had, also from a rough upbringing in life, um, and I've also sponsored people, and so I appreciate being able to take a call like that and offering my support. You're live on the Royal We. This is Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. This is Mark Hobbs.
Hi, Mark. How are you? I saw you post earlier. I might have a story I want to share, and here you are. You're finally calling. You saved the best for last, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, first off, yeah, I wanted to comment. Lately, I've been struggling with reverse projection. I know you posted a video on that, and I'm taking to heart everything. I'm labeling it for what it really is.
You mean
Yeah,
projecting
yeah.
positivity onto a narcissistic and toxic person, viewing them as a good
Well,
person. Is that what you're talking about?
kind of like that, in other words, I project my own inadequacies onto the abuser, thinking that the false thought is, oh, they're just doing this because they're feeling inadequate of themselves. Well, I think that's total bull malarkey because I felt inadequate in my whole life. Nothing that would drive me to victimize people.
Right. Yeah. Well, this goes back to that saying that I put out there, that, it goes against the saying that we all know, hurt people hurt people. I don't buy that.
Exactly.
I don't buy that one bit. I don't believe hurt people hurt people. Hurt people want to heal. Bullies hurt people. And whoever came up with that, hurt people, yeah, nah, I've seen enough in life to know that that's not the case. I think we all have.
I don't know. I think whatever guy came up with that statement must have been high or out of his mind.
Well, it was a staple of Celebrate Recovery, the program I was in, and it works. It works in terms of this. It works in terms of, okay, if you're an alcoholic, typically you're an alcoholic because you're hurt and you're hiding in life, but alcoholics aren't directly trying to hurt other people. And so what happens with an alcoholic is they end up ultimately hurting people who love them. Why? Because they're an alcoholic and because they're hurting themselves by drinking. And that is then indirectly hurting others who love them, okay? And so in that regards, I get how hurt people can hurt people. But where we draw the line is when it's not an alcoholic or not this, but when it's somebody who is bullying, who is purposefully trying to directly hurt other people, attack people physically, mentally, verbally. Okay, that's directly trying to hurt people, and that's done on purpose. That's not out of being hurt. That's being done out of aggression. That's being done out of hate. And I believe that, and that's being done out of hate for other people. And that's oftentimes where we see narcissists, is they get to this place of hating other people.
When that last caller was sharing his history of sexual abuse, it got me to recall about how I was inadvertently sexually abused by my own mother. I mean, it wasn't really overtly, physical, but it was emotional in nature. What happened was we were just at the mall, just out and about as usual, and my mom was pointing towards the lingerie section and being like, "Oh, is that something you could buy for me?" I thought at the time she was just joking, and I did feel very creeped out by that, but I just laughed it off at the time. But
Mm-hmm.
looking back at that, I kind of see it for what it really is. I mean, she just had such a lustful desire for me. Like I was a sole emotional support in the home when my narcissistic dad wasn't there for her. I was there emotionally. So it seems to her. And it just led to that.
Gotcha.
Incest. And I was just feeling, I could express that out there and get it off my chest,
That's rough. That's difficult.
It is.
That's not a spot that a young boy should be put in with his own mother.
No.
It's not. How old were you?
I was maybe I was in junior high at the time of this incident.
Yeah.
And there was another time I was sexually abused by two girls in a swimming pool. I was like finishing 6th grade at this time. And I went and told my mother about it. And she just blew it off and said, oh, well, they were just doing it with you because they find you sexy. And it looked like she was getting pleasure from it.
That's strange. That's very strange. And, regardless, these things can definitely start to warp your mind, and that relationship can really spin you out. That can have a lasting effect on all of your relationships, on any women you come in contact with. Absolutely.
It did.
Absolutely.
It did. I do remember in my bachelorhood how I was dating women who were a lot older than me. And there wasn't any chance of a future in that.
And that's interesting. I was going to ask, as you grew up, did you find yourself attracted to older women, as mainly what you prefer? And that would be a result of that, is to constantly be gravitating towards older women, and because of the age difference and because of that mothering, nurturing atmosphere that as a young child you've associated now with sensuality in a weird way, and that excited that side of you, or those ideas of you, and that it would start to draw you to older women. I can imagine that.
Yeah, not only older women, but also women who have bipolar or who are excessively very needy and just very smothering.
Yeah.
To the point where it becomes really overwhelming, that I have to lean upon God for guidance and support.
We all do. We all do.
But I am very thankful I have a wife in my life, and it's
good.
Emily Hobbs. She's on the forum too, and
good.
She's been so supportive of me, and that's been a very great blessing in my own life, in my healing journey.
That's all you can ask for, is somebody who's there, someone who's in your corner, someone who understands. Right. And and again, just like the last caller, I just can't reiterate it. I can't say it enough, that it's not your fault. What you witnessed growing up, what you experienced, was not your fault. You shouldn't have been in that situation. You shouldn't have been exposed to that. You shouldn't have been talked to in that way. And the consequences that you carry, the burden that you carry, the guilt that you carry, the shame that you carry, it would be my desire that you would drop it, because it's not yours. It was heaped upon you as a young child. And you carry these things. We all do. We take these things on as young children, right? And we carry these
Yeah.
things all throughout our lives. Parents don't understand oftentimes the burdens that they throw upon their own children in these areas. In these areas.
You know what would please me more regarding my mom? I'm a correction officer. I work at a state pen outside my town. There's
Mhm.
nothing that would please me more than to see my own mother in a mugshot.
That's rough. That's rough. I know that you, and I believe that you sincerely think that that would somehow bring satisfaction, but it won't, and it wouldn't, because the
No, I
damage
won't.
the damage that's been done to you on the inside, that burden that you carry will still be there. Wherever you go, there you are, and so keep that in mind. So what we need to do is just separate and distance, and just learn the gratitude for what you have in your life, the wife that you have, the family that you now have. Your mom is no longer your family. She was the woman responsible for raising you. That's it. That's the extent of that. And whatever you gathered from that upbringing, that's it.
Huh. Well, thank you, Kevin. And yeah, I've been very active, in my church and my prayer life, and that's been a very help to a deep degree.
Good. Good. Good.
All right. Well, that's about all I got to share tonight.
Well, I'm glad you called in. I'm glad you called in. Thank you for sharing. That's
Well,
bold. That's bold of you to share that, and I appreciate that, and we all do. Thank you.
God bless you, Kevin. God bless the royal we.
All righty. Bye. Wow. Well, two awesome. We've had phone calls back to back, which I didn't get to get into the top news stories. I guess that means that's just God's indication. That's your guys' indication that you don't want me to read the news. We're not going to get into the top news. And a couple of those phone calls, I one of the things I really appreciate about both those last two phone calls is that it wasn't about navigating narcissistic relationships or people. It was about dealing with certain burdens and trauma and hurt. And I never thought that I would be here helping people walk through those issues, but I'm grateful nonetheless to be able to be here to do that. I'm expecting to get phone call. This is why you never have expectations, right? I'm typically sitting here saying, okay, how am I going to help this person get out of a bad relationship? But I'm just surprised, and I'm humbled, and I'm blessed by the phone conversations tonight. And yeah, I know the battery. I see the battery. It's still got time. It's still got time. And I'm still up. I'll take another phone call. I'm enjoying the phone calls. If somebody else has a question, if somebody else out there listening right now who has been thinking about calling and maybe didn't quite get to it yet, or maybe right now you're wondering if you should or you shouldn't, maybe you're nervous, maybe you're scared, whatever the case may be, you don't have to be. You're more than welcome to call in and chat, and we'll talk. And thank you, Joe in the Know. I appreciate that. I wasn't quite sure how well I was doing navigating those difficult situations, those difficult phone calls. Those were difficult. You get used to, as I said, you get used to helping people get out of abusive situations. When it comes to helping people heal internal trauma, it's difficult. It's different. You're live on the Royal We.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. I'm Trumpeter Swan.
Trumpeter Swan. Okay. Where are you calling from?
From Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. All right. Well, thank you for calling.
Yep.
Thank you for being on.
Oh, great. It's an honor. I feel like you're kind of my church since I haven't found a church lately. So I listen every, my ex-husband is I kind of think he's one of the worst of the worst. He just kind of has all the worst symptoms to the point that we literally attacked. We just do not talk about anything because he just lies and it's a waste of energy on my part. So I've been doing, taking that advice that a lot of people have to just try to keep that. And I've been really successful at that. But God just keeps showing me more and more about, what he's really what he really is like. He was covert narcissist, so he was very hidden from me, all the things he was doing. And he ended up alienating me from my children and just destroying their image of me in such a way that I have 6 children. And it's so bad, thank God, but just about to the point of death, because I just was so discouraged that I couldn't even input into his life. But he was, living with a dangerous person. He could live with me at least half the time, but he wouldn't do it, or at least by his choice anyway. Anyway, so all that's been kind of settled, but just now it's coming up again where I'm really wondering what you think about this. So my school is starting a week from today, actually, and my erratic ex-husband just decided, without asking